going to start the meditation in a 2-block shavasana. Now, I'll do this the reverse to put my head up front so that you can see. We've done this a number of times before, but take 1 block towards the front of your mat. And I need to move this back a little bit. The 6-inch dimension high. The other block is going to go horizontally across your shoulder blades in the flat direction. So, my name is Clint, and this is Yin Yoga, and welcome. So, we're going to start in 2-block shavasana. So, set your blocks up like I have them shown here. Make sure that your shoulder blades, bottoms of your shoulder blades are on the lowest part of your block. And then the other block can be used as a pillow. Or you can use a bolster or a pillow. And if you don't want to do either, go do your own thing. But from here, the object of this pose, in addition to the meditation, is it will open up your shoulders. So bring your arms out wide, and then just let the backs of your hands sink down onto the mat. Your feet can be anywhere. Your knees can be bent or straight. Your knees can be together or far apart in butterfly. And if this bothers your shoulders, just move your hands a little bit closer towards your feet until there's a pleasing sensation. But just let your shoulders, your arms just drop right off the ends of your chest. Take a deep cleansing breath in through your nose and exhale it out through your nose. Take another deep cleansing breath in through your nose, out through your nose, and let your breath come to its own natural rhythm, in and out through your nose. Feel how that air rushes in through your nostrils, where it gets cleaned, it gets moistened, and the temperature is corrected, getting it closer to your own body's temperature. Then it travels down the back of your throat. And just before it gets into the tops of your lungs, it comes all the way up to the right temperature so that you can exchange your air for carbon dioxide with the least amount of difficulty. Notice if you're breathing into your belly, where your belly rises with each breath. Or maybe you're breathing into your ribs, your side body. You may be able to feel your ribs separate and your ribs widen, creating more space for that air. And then as you exhale, notice how that air flows out through the back of your throat again, through your nostrils. And you may even be able to feel it on your upper lip. Every breath is unique. You're breathing in various pollens and dust, maybe some insects that all get filtered out. protecting your lungs from damage. When you breathe through your nose, you're creating more nitric oxide, which is a natural chemical that helps ward off microbacterial particles in viruses. When you breathe through your mouth, all that protection is bypassed. Feel the weight of your arms coming down. Begin to deepen your breath. On your next inhale, do one of a number of different things. You can lift your head and remove the block. You can just bring your elbows down to the mat underneath your back and just lift up. But however you do it, be careful. And then I'll meet you in a seated position at the front of your mat. And the first pose here is butterfly. So for butterfly, take the crown of your head up towards the ceiling. Tuck your chin in a little bit. Lift your shoulders up, roll them back down behind your back, down towards your hips. Your feet can be any distance in front of you. And then on an exhale, begin to forward fold. Just walk your hands forward. You can walk them over the tops of your feet. You can walk them beyond your feet. You can even walk your hands in your forearms underneath your ankles, if you wish. And use the weight of your legs to help you come forward a little bit more. From here, you're trying to lengthen your spine by taking your collarbones towards the far wall, the wall beyond your head. You're opening up your groins. And if your legs are bobbing up and down, use a block or two blocks just to tuck them underneath your knee or your thigh or your calf, just so that they have some place to rest. Listen carefully. On your next inhale, rise up just a little bit. And then exhale, forward fold a little bit more. This time, allowing your spine to curve, to round, and your head to just drop forward. Now you can put your head on a block or two blocks if you wish. Maybe move your head a little bit left to right to make sure that there's no tension there. And soften your shoulders. Let your shoulder blades come back down towards your hips. Try some breathing into your kidneys. And use that sensation to soften your back. In Yin Yoga, you use gravity is the primary mover of your body. You stretch into a pose, and then you become still, and you let those muscles soften. And as they soften, the tension from your body position transfers from those muscles into your fascia, your connective tissues that surround every muscle that you have. That tension stimulates growth of more fascia, cells, and fibers. And eventually, you gain more space in your fascia. So where you were stiff before, you become a little bit more flexible and you gain mobility. In yin, change comes in the dimension of time. So be patient. Begin to deepen your breath. On your next inhale, slowly begin to rise back up. When you get to seated, use both hands to help each knee rise back up. Bring your footprints on the mat and your hands behind your hips. And then windshield wiper your knees from left to right and observe your muscles, how stiff they are or how flexible they are, and the differences between the sides. And the next time you come to center, pause. From here, come over onto one hip or the other, bring your legs around behind you, and come into table, facing the front of your mat. And do a couple of cat-cows. This next pose used to be one of my worst poses. It was a nightmare, actually. And many men will agree with me. It's shoelace. So the next time you come to center, pause. Walk your hands and knees over towards the left side of your mat. Pick your left foot up and stretch it back towards the back wall. Really push that heel away, stretching that hamstring. And then bring that left knee down behind the right. Bring that left foot way off to the right side of the mat. Your right foot off to the left side so that you're totally confused. Walk your hands back. Now you can use a block if you wish, or a bolster, or two blocks, but come on back and bring your sit bones down on top of the block. And just rest here for a moment and get your weight equally on either sit bone. You can just close your eyes, rest your hands. And make peace with this pose. That's a lot to ask. And then open your eyes. Take your left hand palm up and reach for the front right corner of your mat. Reach that arm way out. Then take your right arm and bring your right elbow underneath the left elbow. You're going to bring your palms together, or maybe your wrist, back of the wrist, the back of the wrist. Bring your hands up into eagle arms, or your version of it. From here, maybe you can get a little bit more space by pushing your elbows out just a touch You can really feel this across your back where your shoulder blades are being drawn far, far apart because your elbows are pulling them towards the front of your body. This is a big inward rotation for your shoulders and really good for your rotator cuff. Your rotator cuff is a group of 5 muscles that tie in and stabilize each of your scapula, your shoulder blades. And then on your next exhale, release your bind. Bring your hands down and then bring them way out to the side. Lift your chest high. And then bring your palms together way out in front of you. Interlace your fingers. Note which thumb is on top. And then supinate your palms, pushing them away. You can round your spine if you wish. And then on an inhale, just rise all the way up and feel the opening of your armpits as your palms go vertical. And then release. Bring your arms all the way back down. Now for Gomukhasana arms, also known as cow face arms. I have no idea how they ever came up with that name. Inhale your right arm way up high. Just reach as high as you can possibly get. Trying to get to that cookie jar that has all your money. And then bend that right elbow, pat yourself on the back. Take your left hand way out to the side, thumb down. Bend your elbow. And then walk the back of your left hand up your spine. And maybe you can make a bind with your fingers of your left hand to your fingers of your right hand. Now, if you're trying to bend over forward to make this easier, you're actually making this much more challenging. So straighten up your spine, take the crown of your head up towards the ceiling, and that will bring your arms or your hands closer together than any other position you can go into. Notice the pulling of your pecs, the tightening of your core on the front side. And then on your next exhale, release. Bring both hands down by your side and bend your elbows like you're going to come up and shake somebody's right hand and left hand, known as robot arms, and then just rock your elbows back and forth. This little bit of movement in your shoulders really helps restore those muscles that were helping you in Gomukhasana arms. The next time you come to center, pause. From here, the next pose, we have to go back to table. So maybe the easiest for you will be just to roll over frontwards, but if it's easier for you to go backwards, go ahead. I'll meet you in table where you can make big circles with your hips if you wish. Or you can curl your toes under, lift your hips up and back into downward dog. That's perfectly acceptable too. But feel your legs as they return to normal. And then coming back down onto your knees softly. From here, walk your hands and feet, your hands and knees off to the right side of the mat. And no, you're not going to do shoelace on the left side quite yet. But from here, bring your left hip down onto your mat. Your thighs are parallel to the front of your mat. Face the front of your mat. And you're going to be going into a face down spinal twist. So from here, you could use a towel underneath your chest. If you have a tender chest, you don't have to. You could use a block. Walk your hands forward and come down as best you can. If you get down onto a block, onto your soft ribs or your collarbones, that's fine. And then walk your hands out into T. And feel where this twist is. Your hips are pretty much vertical, and your shoulders are pretty much horizontal. Now you have an option here. You can gaze off towards your left hand if you wish. That's not necessary. You can just put your chin on the mat, your forehead on a block, or just look off to the right. Now, if you'd like another little modification, with your arms outstretched, come up onto your tippy fingers. And then crab walk your fingers forward in a big arc, like you're making a snow angel. And feel this in your shoulders. And if you get to a point where it hurts, don't do it. This is a big stretch on your shoulders also. This is just another way to address your shoulders, starting with that 2-block Shavasana. And then when you're ready, just walk those back. Notice how your hips feel here and how they felt when your arms were almost straight ahead. Just relax your shoulders now. Begin to deepen your breath. On your next inhale, bring your hands back next to your chest. And on an inhale, push the floor away, lifting your chest up. And find your way back into table again. And do a couple more cat-cows. Maybe you want to bring your knees farther apart. You may want to bring your knees all the way up and out to the side. Do what your body wants you to do right now. And the next time you come to center, pause. The next pose is going to be swan on the right side. So for swan, you have all kinds of options. If you have issues with your knee or your hip and you want to do a reclining swan, go right ahead. Just get onto your back, use a block under your hips. But if you want to do the conventional, bring that right foot up, push that right heel away, way to the back, and then on an exhale, bring that right knee behind the right wrist. Your right foot comes off to the left, and then begin to walk that left knee back. A little bit at a time. The goal is to get your right hip onto the mat. At least that's the direction that your hip is headed. You may never get there, and that's fine. And you can stay here in standing swan. It gets more weight into that hip. Make sure that you don't have any sensation in that right knee. And make sure that your left leg is back straight out behind you and your toenails are being polished by your mat. And then if you'd like to come into reclining swan, just walk your hands forward. You can come as far forward as you wish. You can stay on your elbows. You can come down onto your chest. If you'd like to modify this, if you'd like to intensify this pose on your hip, your right hip, you can always move that right knee to the right. Make sure that you don't have any sensation in that knee, but you might have to come up to create a couple more inches. What this does, it increases the rotation inside your hip socket. And if the pose is too much for you, just move that knee in towards your body center line. You're doing the same thing in reverse, where you're getting less of a rotation on that hip. But in either case, you do not want to be twisting your knee. This is not a pose to increase your knee flexibility, because your knees are not supposed to be flexible, except in one direction. You can always support yourself on a block. Soften your lower core, just below your rib cage. You should be feeling this in your right glutes, your right hip socket, and in both hip flexors. You know that you're stretching your piriformis, which is an adductor, one of the muscles that draws your legs together. But that's such a small muscle, and it's inside your pelvis that you probably cannot distinguish it. Begin to deepen your breath. On your next inhale, bring your hands to the mat. Walk them back towards your hips, raising your chest. And when you get to a point where you can free up that right leg to come back to meet the left, do so. You can stay in table and do some cat-cows or big circles, or be like Mike and come up into downward facing dog. And then gently return back down to your mat. From here, stay in table for just a moment, and we're going to do a couple of versions of puppy dog or bleeding heart. So notice where your hands are. Your wrist crease is directly below your shoulder. And then walk your hands forward 8 to 12 inches. And then look where your head is. Look straight down. So if you started crying, you'd see where your tears fall. That's where you want to bring your head. So just begin to come down. You can walk your hands farther out, and you want to become sway back. And just before you get to the ground, from here, walk your hands to the left so that your left hand comes off the mat, your right hand is still on the mat. And then release all the way down. What you're doing, you're getting a back bend and a side bend at the same time. Feel this all the way up to your armpit, through your triceps and your forearms, all the way down to your kidney and your glutes on your right hip. Allow your belly to soften. Allow your back to soften. And then listen carefully. First, rise up onto your forearms and elbows, and then up onto your hands. Walk your hands off to the right, the same amount they were on the left, so that your left hand is still on the mat, your right hand is just off. And then when you're ready, just lower back down. So you're coming down kind of like an old polo horse with a sway back. And feel this stretch in your left arm, your left shoulder, your left rib cage, coming all the way down, probably to your left knee. Even those little muscles between your ribs are stretching. Just sink into this. Just let your head come down. Let the weight just travel through your shoulders to your forearms. Let your chest come down. Soften your lower abdomen. And see if you can tell exactly which vertebra you can feel the most stretch in. Begin to deepen your breath. On your next inhale, push into your forearms, coming up a little bit. Walk your forearms back in, coming up onto your hands. Come back to center. Do a couple of cat-cows here. And really emphasize the motion with your shoulders, but do it slowly. And the next time you come to center, pause. From here, come down onto one hip or the other, and bring your legs around in front. And the next pose is caterpillar. So caterpillar, you have the option of getting up on a block if you wish. You don't have to. But I think, well, everybody knows what I think. I always use it. But if you're on a block, sit on the very front edge so that the back of it comes right up. Your legs can be stretched out way in front. They can be bent slightly, depending on your hamstrings. This pose is to stretch both hamstrings and your back. Inhale your spine tall. And then on an exhale, walk your hands slowly on the outside of your legs, folding forward. And notice as the tension increases, where does it increase? Do you feel this more in your ankles, or the backs of your knees, or your hamstrings? Maybe your spine. You may want another block to rest your head. You may want a block underneath your knees. Maybe your hamstrings are really aggravated today for whatever reason. Maybe it's because you're going for an 8-mile hike tomorrow and they're just acting up in self-defense. We'll put a block under. Allow your spine to roll forward, your head to fall forward. You can modify your arm position. If you bring your palms up towards the ceiling, you get a rotation on your shoulders. Your humerus will rotate in that shoulder socket and give your back a little bit more stretch. Your hands are indeed connected to your back. Begin to deepen your breath. On your next inhale, slowly rise up. Remove any toys that you might have been using. Set them aside. Bring your hands behind your hips. Bend your knees. Bring your footprints to the mat. You may want to try a different foot position, and then windshield wiper your knees from left to right. And again, notice the differences. Notice how much change there's been in your legs since the beginning of class. And the next time you come to center, pause there. The next pose is going to be swan on the left. So you can get to swan very easily from a seated position because we've done this quite a few times in the past months. So just bend your left knee and bring your left ankle parallel to the front of the mat or thereabouts. Then roll onto your left hip and bring that right knee back. Now, you can stop right here in 90-90 or deer pose, if that's a better pose for you than swan. Or you can bring that all the way back, like I'm going to. And again, you can modify how much that left knee is bent. You want to try to keep that left foot flexed because that protects rotation of your knee. And remember, you're trying to get your left hip down to the mat. And you can always stick a block or a towel underneath if that does help. From here, standing swan, you can really feel the weight being transferred. But if you'd like to move forward into sleeping swan, go right ahead. Remember the options you have to intensify this. You can bring that left knee farther to the left, maybe only an inch, maybe an inch and a half. That might make a huge difference. And it doesn't even matter how much your knee is bent. And if you want to come all the way down, go ahead. You don't want any sensation and certainly no pain in that left knee. Maybe you want to push that left hip back and the right hip forward a little bit to square up your hips. And slowly sink into gravity. Just release. If at any time your muscles start to rebel, you can always back up. The smart yogi always listens to its owner's body. Soften your inner thighs. If your left hand is available, you can always reach around and just feel your glute, all three of your glutes there. See where the tension is the most and see if that matches up with what your mind and your body is feeling. Begin to deepen your breath. On your next inhale, begin walking your hands back towards your shoulders. When it's appropriate, push into the floor, raising your chest. Continue walking your hands back, and when you can release that left leg back to meet the right, go ahead. And again, you can make circles in table. You can lift one leg and then the other, or you can go up into downward facing dog. And just be amazed at how your body knows what is needed without you having to tell it. And then carefully return your knees back down to the mat. This time, walk your hands and knees over to the right side of your mat. Lift your right foot up and back. You're about to come into shoelace on the left. So from here, take that right knee behind the left. Left foot off to the, right foot off to the left off to the right. Then begin walking your hands back. And you can sit on a block, 2 blocks, 3 blocks. And just rest here for a moment. Your hands on your feet or on your knees. And just close your eyes. Take a deep cleansing breath. And direct that breath to wherever the sensations are greatest. That's the body part that you need the most resources. And you can consciously influence your body. And then when you're ready, open your eyes. Take your right hand, palm up towards the front left corner of your mat. And then take your left arm, left elbow underneath the right elbow. And maybe bring your palms together on this side. Maybe this side is more challenging. It really doesn't matter. You might get the back of your hand onto the back of your wrist. And this pose may be just too much. So just grab opposite shoulders. And you will still feel your shoulder blades being drawn outward. Everything else is for show. You may raise your elbows just a little bit, push them out. Maybe that will create a little bit more space. Maybe not today, but next week. And then let gravity just draw them down. See if you can get a focusless gaze off to the front of your mat, where you're looking but you're not really seeing, and soften your shoulders here. And then on your next exhale, release. Untangle your arms, bring your arms back down by your sides. This time, bring your arms all the way out to the side again. Lift your chest high, gaze up, and then bring your palms together again, way out in front. And this time, interlace your fingers the wrong way, the way that you did not do the last time. Get your opposite thumb on top. Then supinate your palms, pushing your palms away. Round your spine a little bit. And then over the course of maybe 2 or 3 breaths, raise your palms up towards the ceiling, feeling each little ratchet of your muscles as they go all the way up towards the sky. And then release your arms, bring them all the way back down, bend your elbows, pretend like you're grasping baby birds. I'm getting ahead of myself. From here, take your left arm up towards the ceiling. Reach, reach, reach. And then bend that elbow and pat yourself on your back, right in between your scapula. Take your right arm out to the side, thumb down. Bend that right elbow, bring that right hand behind your back, and then walk the back of your hand up your spine, and maybe you can make a bind, maybe not. Doesn't matter. Your shoulders are getting the opening that they deserve. getting an outward rotation on your left and an inward rotation on your right. And then on your next exhale, release your bind. Bring your arms back down by your side. This time, catch those baby birds. And then rock your shoulders, your elbows, frontwards and backwards. And the next time you come to center, pause. The next pose, once again, gets you onto your hands and knees. This will be the face down spinal twist. So just walk your feet or your hands forward. Or if you have to get out of this another way, do what's best for you. And then you'll just catch up. You may want to do a couple cat-cows. Another down dog. And then come down onto your mat. This time, walk your hands and feet over to the left side of your mat. Come down onto your right hip. So your thighs are parallel to the front of the mat again. Turn towards the front of your mat. And then walk your hands forward. Coming down onto your chest. And then when you're ready or able, bring your arms out into T. Your gaze can be off over your right hand. Notice how your hips are doing here. You may feel your hip flexors objecting. And if you wish to do the spider walk again, you can come up onto your fingertips. Walk your hands forward. You're getting a lot of extra free shoulder work today. And then walk them back whenever you're ready. Let gravity draw your arms down to the mat. Soften your belly. Soften your glutes. Soften your thighs. Soften your ankles and calves. Listen carefully. On your next inhale, Bring your hands back in next to your chest. From here, lift up just enough to be able to tuck your right shoulder under and then roll onto your back on the middle of your mat. Stretch your legs out long. Bring your arms up overhead and towards the wall in front of you. Push your heels and your palms apart, your toes and your fingers. And then make sure you have a block within reach. Bring it next to your hips. Bend your knees and walk your feet up towards your sit bones. From here, we're going to do a quick inversion. So if inversions are not for you, just stay in Shavasana. But if you'd like this inversion, on an inhale, tuck your tailbone under, lift your hips up towards the ceiling. Place the block the lowest way underneath your sacrum, and then come back down. And then reach your right foot up towards the ceiling. Push the ceiling away with your heel. Then bring your left foot up and push your heel away there too. Your arms now can be anywhere. They can be in cactus, which is your elbows bent at 90 degrees. It can be in T. Your arms can be down by your side. Whatever works best for you. But try to get your feet directly over your hips. You don't want your heels to be out towards the front of your mat, and you don't want your toes over your face. You want your muscles to be doing the least amount of work. If you'd like to spread your legs, just let them fall outward. Your hands can come on your inner thighs to help stabilize you and also get a little bit of weight to help open up your groins just a bit more. You may want to try pointing your toes and then flexing your feet. See which works better for you. And then soften. Begin to deepen your breath. On your next inhale, bring your legs back together. One more push of your heels up. And then on an exhale, bend your knees and bring one foot down and then the other next to your sit bones. On an inhale, lift up, remove your block, set it aside. Lower your hips. And then bring your knees into your chest. Give yourself a squeeze, pushing your hips towards the end of your mat. And then roll from left to right, massaging your entire spine on your left side and then your right side. And next time you come to center pause, from here, release one of your legs out to the front corners of your mat, and then the other leg And then bring your arms back down by your sides or out to the side. If you want your shoulder blades underneath your chest, walk them in. Lift your head up 1 inch, tuck your chin, lower your head. Take a deep cleansing breath in through your nose and exhale it out through your nose. Take another deep cleansing breath in through your nose, out through your nose, and take rest. Begin to deepen your breath. Bring your awareness back into your space. Bring movement to your fingers, into your toes, to your wrists, into your ankles. And then gently rock your head from left to right. And then when you're ready, bend your knees, walk your footprints up towards your sit bones. Draw your knees into your chest. Give yourself a big squeeze. You're gonna rock again from left to right. And when you're ready, come all the way over onto your right side and use your right arm as a pillow. And pause here for just a moment and do a quick scan of your body. Notice if you have any more tension residing or hiding in a place that you were not able to access. Make a note of that for next time or some other time during this coming week. And then use the strength in your left hand, to push the floor away and rise up to a seated position. Thank you for sharing your yin yoga practice with me this afternoon. It has been a pleasure and an honor to practice with you. Take the compassion and the empathy and peace that you practice on your mat with you wherever you go and share it with everyone you meet. Namaste. My name is Clint, and this has been Yin Yoga.